Hey y'all, welcome to Kamira's Kitchen. Today I'm going to show you some budget-friendly meals. I took $30 and I got some groceries and I'm going to show you exactly what I would do with them. Now I combine these groceries with a few pantry staples in order to bring you these meals. I'm doing them to the flavors that me and my husband like, okay? But you do it to the flavors that you and your family like. Also, if I already had that ingredient in the house, I didn't buy it again, but I will show you the cart that I made on Walmart.com. For instance, I already had evaporated milk, so I didn't buy the Walmart brand. I feel like that would defeat the purpose of a budget video for me to just buy something that I already have. And if you have a lot of these things in your pantry, then you're going to save even more money as well. So let's go ahead and get cooking. I'm going to give you guys some inspiration and let me know what you think in the comments. Chicken leg quarters are some of the best priced chicken parts in the market. $6.72 for 10 pounds of chicken is a great deal. Plus, it has a good amount of fat, which we want. Okay, what you're going to see is that I am going to be taking off any parts that are feathers, but I'm actually going to be leaving on a lot of the fat. This is because we will use that fat as a flavorful oil in other recipes. The first meal we're going to be making is a southern chicken and rice. And so we are going to be prepping this chicken in order for it to be cooked down so they can become pull apart chicken. I am adding a piece of celery and an onion from my pantry. If you do not have celery, you can use a carrot or any sort of leftover vegetable you may have around. I'm going to cut off the celery tip, but I'm going to save it because we are going to use that to make our broth. And then I'm going to dice the celery into small pieces. Now for our chicken, in order to help it cook faster, I'm going to take it and I'm simply going to cut it in half. I will leave on the skin because that will add, again, fat and flavor to the dish. So we're not going to need a bunch of excess oil. And the bone is for sure going to add a lot of flavor. I always like to cook my chicken in an Instant Pot. And that just saves a lot of time. However, if you don't have an Instant Pot, simply boil it on the stove until it becomes pull apart tender. Into this, I'm adding some chicken bouillon, some chicken seasoning, a bay leaf, some herbs from my garden, a celery top, and 1 clove of garlic. I'm going to put on about 1 liter of hot water, and then I'm going to pressure cook this for 25 minutes. I'm going to let it natural pressure release for about 34 minutes, and at that point the chicken will be tender and the broth is going to be very, very tasty. While this is cooking, I'm going to go ahead and get my pot started. Now that's that little piece of chicken fat y'all saw earlier. I am going to actually toast this on medium-low heat in my pot to render out that fat. That way I don't have to use any more butter. I'm going to go in there with that onion and that celery, and I'm going to saute this for about 2 to 3 minutes. I want this to be sort of a creamy chicken and rice, so I'm going to put in a little bit of flour. You could add in a can of cream of chicken. However, that would have blew my budget. So we're going to do something a little different, and we're going to add in some flour, and I'll be using that evaporated milk to get that creaminess that we want in the dish. If you've ever had something like chicken bog, this is similar to that. Okay, it's going to be like chicken and rice, but it's a little creamy and it's got a lot of really good flavors. Actually, this is something that I had back in the day, and I've definitely seen my grandmother eat a dish like this before. At this point, my chicken is ready, and I am going to start pulling out any of like the excess little vegetables or the herbs, and we're going to toss those. I'm also going to take out the bones. Y'all, they didn't serve their purpose. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of that broth into my pot. I don't want the flour to overcook, so I'm just going to toss that in while I am picking out the bones and the skin and kind of any extra gristly parts. And y'all, I bury those in my garden and I just let them compost, okay? But you want to leave all that chicken, and you definitely want the broth, which has tons of flavor. When you pick out the bones, then you can start pouring in the broth, but reserve the chicken, okay? It's already cooked. I just want to let this come up to a nice boil to let the flavors from the celery and the onion, let all of that come together. Now, I decided mine needed a little bit extra flavor, so I went in with a little bit extra seasoning. And then I put in a 1/2 cup of that evaporated milk. So I still have more of that evaporated milk left. At this point, you could continue on with the recipe as I'm going to show you, or you could even add in the chicken, a little bit of rice, and if you have vegetables at home, you can make this a soup. Or if your budget allows, you could put in some pasta or some egg noodles, and this would be a really good chicken noodle soup. But that didn't fit in my budget for today, so I'm going to continue and I'm going to add a cup and a half of rice. I did not wash it on purpose because I want the starchiness to thicken up this recipe. I allowed this to simmer on low for 25 minutes until my rice was cooked, but there was a little bit of broth and creaminess around the rice. If you want your dish to be looser, then you can simply add in more chicken broth. If you want it to be a little bit thicker, then just use less chicken broth. This is really flexible and it's more like a technique. Of course, it's a recipe, but you can feel things out to your family's taste. After 10 minutes, I went in and I just stirred the pot. Because it is so thick, I didn't want anything to burn on the bottom. Then I covered it up again and I allowed it to cook the rest of the cooking time on low. Now I'm going to tell y'all the truth. This right here can smack, okay? I know it's a budget meal, but the rice is not mushy. It's just perfectly cooked. And the chicken in there with all the flavors from the herb and the onion and that chicken bouillon is a really good compliment. If you have room in the budget, I would serve this with some green beans, and you can definitely get 6 to 7 servings out of this depending on how much you eat. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and get started on the second meal idea. This is a breakfast idea, so I'm going to chop up 1 piece of the bacon and I'm going to saute that until the fat is rendered. If you don't mess with the Piggly Wiggly, then use turkey bacon. I'm then going to put in a little bit of onion, a little water. Y'all, my eye was just running hot that day. Okay, I didn't want myself to burn. And then I'm putting in these chopped peppers. Now, these chopped mini peppers do 2 things for this meal idea. One, it adds lots of color and sweetness, but it also adds a good amount of nutrition. You always want to have something a little bit fresh, even when you're doing a budget meal. I'm then going to put in that bunch of kale. I've already washed it and chopped it up, and I'm going to let this cook down with a little bit of boiling water, a little salt, and a little pepper. You could also use red chili flakes. Nothing crazy. The freshness from the vegetables gives it a really good taste. Tell me how you would have spent the $30 if you were on a budget. And maybe you are. So give the audience some ideas on what you make when you're trying to save money. One of the most challenging things about doing this meal plan was fitting in vegetables. If you're on a budget, let me know what are ways you try to fit in vegetables in a really inexpensive way. That will give me some more ideas on things I can do for you guys. Now we are going on to the grits. I am going to cook the grits according to the package instructions. Now I am only using 1 cup of grits to show you this recipe, but of course a canister of grits has like 6 cups in there. That's easily like 30 servings of grits. But today I'm just going to make this 1 cup. The way I would prepare this is to add a little bit of bouillon, a little salt, and a little pepper. I let this simmer on low for about 25 minutes, y'all. I don't do no 5-minute grits. Okay, we don't do that. All right. I'm then going to add in about 2 tablespoons of the evaporated milk and about 2 tablespoons of the sour cream. My typical grits would have way more fat in it, but you got to do what you got to do. I'm then going to put in about 1/4 of a cup of the cheese. I need this cheese to be left over for another recipe later on in the week. I'm then going to put in just a tablespoon of butter. Now, look, typically y'all know I be putting butter all up in there. But you know what? For some budget grits, these actually could smack. Okay, I find that if you use a little bit of fat and then some salt and pepper, you definitely will get good tasting grits. And I think it is important to add fat to the grits because it makes them more satiating. Now, to make this breakfast bowl, I added some grits, a little bit of the kale and pepper and bacon mixture, and then I just cooked up a few strips of bacon and I just added 1 per breakfast bowl. So as I showed the recipe, you can get about 6 servings of grits and kale and bacon just from that. And you have plenty of leftover bacon. The rest of the week, you can make the grits and then you can either add a slice of bacon or maybe just a little bit of pepper since you're not going to have any more kale. Or you can just have the grits plain. This is an emergency budget plan and sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. Now this is the kale and the bacon and peppers that I have left over. As you can see, this is clearly enough to top a few more servings of grits. Let me know if you would try this recipe. Honestly, it was delicious and very easy to make. Up next, we are going to be making the black beans. Now, there's a good reason why beans are often, a staple in a lot of countries. They're really affordable and they have a lot of nutrition. So I'm using a pound of black beans today, and I'm going to go through and pick out any of the ones that are bad. I'm then going to wash them and then add in about 4.5 cups of water, and I'm going to pressure cook this for 35 minutes and then allow it to natural pressure release for 30 minutes as well. The beans will be perfectly cooked. To go with this, we're going to add some chicken. So I prepped this chicken the same way you saw me do it before. I'm going to add some olive oil and some spices that are in my cabinet. You can use whatever spices you have. I'm using a little Creole seasoning, chicken bouillon, some lemon pepper, and some complete seasoning. I'm going to rub this all into the chicken, and I am going to cook my chicken in the air fryer. However, you don't need to have an air fryer to do this. Roasting the chicken in the oven in a pan is totally fine. I don't like to assume that you guys don't have some of these appliances, even though you're on a budget. With the way the groceries are set up right now, okay, I have a lot of friends that are on budgets, but they do have these appliances. So you just make it work for whatever you have. I'm going to cook this in the air fryer for a total of about 35 minutes on 400 degrees. It's going to depend on the size of your chicken, so just do it until yours is done. Now, this is an essential step. We need the chicken fat. Okay, remember I was telling y'all that before. This chicken fat has a lot of flavor. I'm not only going to baste the chicken with this about halfway through the cooking time, but you also going to save that chicken fat to cook other recipes during the week. This is a flavor-filled oil that you got for free right off the chicken. So don't throw this away. Also, you better not throw away that bacon grease. You know Granny gonna come at you with a switch if you throw that bacon grease away. So you definitely don't want to throw that away either, because you can use that to flavor the beans and other recipes. Now that my chicken is done, I'm also going to give y'all another hack. Okay, y'all, and look, y'all need to be giving me kudos for this. Okay, so I'm going to, of course, drain out the rest of the oil. But I'm also going to take 2 cups of boiling water, and we are going to get off that little fond. Whether you use an air fryer or a pan, you will have these little chicken bits, all right? If you go in here with some water and scrape this up, y'all, you can't tell me that this does not look and actually taste like chicken broth, all right? This is a way you can add more flavor and save money. I am going to be using this little chicken broth to make the rice dish that's going to go with this meal. However, if you cook roast chicken multiple times during the week, you can save this little broth to make beans. You can make an extra little soup. You could add some pasta and do a little dish with it, whatever you want, but do not throw it away. Okay. I think this is pretty good just off of 4 pieces of roast chicken. Now, these are the beans. They are ready, and look at all this food that we have here. I didn't add salt or anything to them, but this is a ton of protein and a ton of nutrition just in one pot. I'm going to show you how to make these beans taste really good, so I'm going to go in with a strip of bacon. However, if you want to save your bacon, just use some bacon fat. Once this bacon renders its fat, I'm going to add in a little bit of onion, garlic, and sofrito. Now, sofrito is a pantry staple in a lot of Caribbean households, and it's also something that I always cook on hand. I cook with some sort of green seasoning very often, so this is a pantry staple for me, but you can leave it out and just put in garlic, onion, and peppers with a little bacon fat. I'm then going to add in a few tablespoons of the tomato sauce and a little bit of water. I'm going to season this to my liking. I have Sazon, so I'm going to use Sazon, a little chicken bouillon, and just salt and pepper. Then I'm going to put in 2 cups of the beans. I'm going to cover this and allow this to simmer on low for about 30 minutes. Now, y'all, check out how much beans we have left. We have tons of beans. You could make the bean recipe I showed you at least 2 more times during the week, or you could even make this into a black bean soup with some of that chicken broth from the roasted chicken. It's really up to you at this point. Now, to go with this, we are going to add some rice. I'm going to use some of that chicken fat, and into that, I'm going to add some of the bell peppers, a little bit of onion, some sofrito, and I'm going to saute this for about 3 minutes. I am making a seasoned rice today, but of course you can just make plain rice with salt, pepper, and a little bit of chicken fat, and you're good to go as well. I'm going to put in about 3 cups of chicken broth, and then I'm going to add some Sazon to the rice and a little chicken bouillon. And I'm going to just salt and pepper to my taste. I'm then going to add 1.5 cups of the rice, and I'm going to cook this on low for 20 minutes. After making both of the rice dishes, this and the chicken and rice, I still have 2 cups of rice left. So you could either make this rice again, or you could make that chicken and rice from the beginning one more time. To plate this up, I am going to just add a little bit of rice and then 1 piece of my roast chicken and some beans. And you can have this meal 4 times. Of course, we have 4 pieces of chicken. You could also roast some more chicken and have it again, because you will have more chicken left. However, when you get to the point in the week where you don't have any chicken left, you can take away the chicken, add a little bit more rice and a little bit extra beans, and you could have this at least 5 times, okay? And honestly, this is very satisfying. You're not going to go to bed hungry of this, and it really tastes super yummy. Let me know if you would try this meal. Now, y'all, I ain't gonna lie to y'all. My last meal idea, okay, this one is kind of like in the area of the struggle meal, okay? When you get to this one, you know what time it is. It's time to use up what's in that fridge, okay? So I used some of the leftover roast chicken to show y'all this meal, but you will have enough chicken in order to just make this fresh, okay? I took the potato and I boiled it. And to this, I added some sour cream, a little bit of cheese, salt, pepper, and a bit of the chicken fat. And then I mashed it. We are going to be doing some like chicken and potato tacos. Now, look, if you Mexican, I ain't saying this authentic. Okay, we just doing a little struggle meal thing right here. You know, it's the end of that week. Okay. Now, the other option would be to just use the potatoes as like maybe potato wedges and then do just a chicken taco with cheese. However, I wanted to have more cheese in order to make grits. So I ended up using the mashed potato as a way to add a little bit of texture and creaminess to the taco, even though I wasn't going to have all the cheese, because I only add like a tablespoon of cheese to each taco. And so the potatoes also help keep the taco closed and make them a little bit less dry. If you have chili powder or chipotle peppers, you can season the chicken with that or some taco seasoning. You can use whatever seasonings you want. I actually just used the flavor that was on the roast chicken just to keep it simple. Maybe you don't have that. If you have more room in your budget, you can spend $2 extra and get 8 ounces of more cheese and add more cheese to the tacos and then make the potatoes a part of breakfast. Now, these are the 6 tacos I made. However, I have plenty of taco shells left over. I also have more chicken, more potato, and more cheese. So there's plenty left to make more, but just to show you the example, I'm just going to use 6. I am going to pan fry these tacos in some leftover oil, just a few tablespoons to make them nice and crispy. Now tell me why my shells was busting at the back. Okay, y'all, I don't know why these things was, they was just, let loose in the back. Okay, if you know why, let me know in the comments. But you know what? I'm not going to be deterred, okay, because we still going to eat these, all right? Now, I cooked these on each side for about 2 minutes on medium heat. And then I took them out, put them on a paper towel to drain, and plated them up. To serve with this, I'm using some sour cream, a pinch of salt, and a little bit of that lime to give it flavor. If you have room in the budget, you can also add salsa. But you know what? Honestly, these could smack. The kids will eat these. I ate them. They was good, all right? And you know what? They even got a little cheese pull going on, okay? So let me know what you think of this meal idea and the other things in the budget plan. If you are on a tight budget, don't forget to reach out to maybe your local food pantry or some other resources that could be available to you to offer you a little bit more food security. You guys know I love you and Jesus loves you. And I thank you guys so much for joining me today in Kamira's Kitchen. Goodbye and God bless.